So we've had speakers from everywhere from Pune all the way to LA and back. And Claude joins us today from New York as our fourth day speaker. And we're so excited to have her. For those of you who haven't been on the other sessions, we've had a range of women, everything from White House Tech Advisory Board all the way through to sports nutritionists that will be speaking tomorrow. So the purpose of this event and the reason why we're all here is that everyone has taken an unconventional path to their spot in leadership. And Claude exudes that in a special way because she has a title that you probably have never heard of. She's the Chief Heart Officer for VaynerX. And while she takes, the HR role, which we talk about a lot in what I do, Claude, because we work very closely with changing the way that the workforce works, right? And as we add different elements of technology to it, we've always maintained firmly that humans are at the center and the core of every organization. All that technology does is augment their ability to perform better, faster, stronger, and more humanly with their brains, right? So I love that, HR has taken several different turns over the last 10, 15 years. I think especially after COVID, the role of, HR, and then it turned kind of into Chief People Officer because it really became something more about the culture, the community, the type of organization that people are going to work for. And now with the macroeconomic factors that we see in the globe and with the tides changing and workforce shrinking, it's more important than ever to find a role and, more importantly, a company that supports and aligns with your value system. So I'm so honored today to have Claude join us. And the way that we've been doing this, guys, is if you have questions, please put them in the comments or the Q&A. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Claude to tell us a little bit about her journey, how it was that she got to where she is. And then we'll open this up for a fireside chat with a few of the questions that we had from her in advance.
Yeah, amazing. I think we're going to go with we're just going to go with my background, if that's okay.
I love it. You've got surf. We've got questions. I'm sure that'll come from that too. So again, in the spirit of authenticity, you do you. We're just here to listen.
Okay. Yeah. What you see is what you get. That is definitely for sure. I'm honored to be here, Paula. Thank you so much for including me in this week of Wonder Woman. Really happy to be here. So my name's Claude Silver. I'm the Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia, VaynerX. I have been at Vayner now for 10 years, come May, which is my longest relationship and my longest working relationship. So something is going right. Many things are going right. I will say, I'm going to back up in a second, but I will say the things that go right is that I can be myself, is that you can be yourself, is that we want you to be your authentic and consistent self. And so for someone like me, that's just a joy because it's so much easier to just to be what you see is what you get, rather than putting on an outfit that doesn't feel like me, or pomp and circumstance and all of that stuff. So let's go back in time. I knew from a very young age I wanted to just be with people. Believe it or not, I don't think I'm an extrovert. I think I'm an extrovert at work, but I think I'm probably like an ambivert or something. And I wanted to be a movie director and a philanthropist when I was a kid. And so I feel like, okay, I found out that for a philanthropist, you need a heck of a lot of money, but you could find other ways to give. And a movie director is very creative. And I think that's why I ended up in this world of creative advertising. Not that I am a movie director or a creative, but I like to be around just, the mixing of the clay, if you will, and then to put a product out. So I'm from New York City. We moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, of all places, when I was 11. So talk about a culture shift. Thank God I wasn't a teenager yet. And I went to a very small school, which was great for me because I'm highly dyslexic, and sometimes putting the pieces together was very challenging for me. I used to think I had this missing microchip right here in my brain, and if I could just get this chip put in, like one of those Intel processing chips, I'd be smart. I'd just have it. I'd be able to retain something other than song lyrics. I'm really good at song lyrics. You could ask me anything. We could go Jim Morrison right now, and I'd be good. So anyway, struggled in school quite a bit, but it was a small school, had a lot of wonderful friends. played a lot of sports, which is what really got me some confidence, which I needed a lot of confidence, I think, as I think a lot of young girls do. As I have two very little girls now, 2.5 and 5, it's something I spend a lot of time in. You are so brave. You are so strong. So I'll tell you what, I should never have gone to college. I did took the SATs 3 times untimed, and I still got a 1050 or 1040, 1050. And I hope they don't take those tests anymore. And I shouldn't have gone to college, but I didn't have any other options. And so I got on the waiting list at Rollins College, which is in Florida. It's called the Playground of the South. And yes, it was a playground. I got in on the waiting list because I played tennis, literally. And within 2 years, I told my parents I needed to leave. I was going nowhere fast. Bad boys, bad decisions, bad drugs. And I was not going down the road I was supposed to go down, but I didn't know the road I was supposed to go down. So basically, in a nutshell, I went on a 93-day wilderness leadership course, Outward Bound, which kicked my butt. And I needed my butt kicked in a major way. I went in knowing kind of nothing and came out understanding that empathy is a superpower for me. That when my parents used to tell me, Claude, you think too much with your heart. When are you going to think with your head? Like they were trying to say something positive and I took it as a negative, right? I took it as I don't have that chip. But having the skills and the wherewithal to proactively use emotional intelligence is something I have. And I don't need a microchip for that. And I'm very, very lucky for that. Very, very lucky. I just want to tell a quick story. My Nana, who died at 101, was like my person, right? My person. She died just a few years ago at 101. And she called me Heart from the minute I was born. And so we called each other Heart. And so I'd pick up the phone if I was working in London or I was working, hi, Heart, it's your Heart. Hi, Heart, it's your Heart. How you doing? Hi, Heart, it's your Heart. And it was amazing. She got to see me have this incredible title before she died. So, but what I will say is Nana, I would take her when I'd go, back and see her, I'd take her into Trader Joe's or take her to the florist or whatever. And as she was giving someone her credit card, like the person to pay, at Trader Joe's, and it's Paula, and you have your name tag on right here. It's, it says Paula. And she'd say, Paula. And you'd say, uh-huh. Because you're ready for the next customer. Uh-huh. And she'd say, would you do me a favor and have a peaceful day and walk out? And that is who I hope to be. That is who I hope to be able to give generously like that, of my heart and my time and my attention, because that's what she did and set a wonderful example. One thing led to another, and I'll just go, get onto how I got to Vayner. But I was in San Francisco, right place at the right time. I ended up graduating college I was 28. Great, fine. And I immediately got a job in an internet.com company. It was 1998. And no yacht, no Facebook, no Whole Foods, no none of this stuff. And that was my foray into this world of digital. I'll just call it digital. I was a project manager, which was fantastic in terms of understanding how the sausages get made and keeping trains on track and just having a team. I love team. I love this idea of how I show up for me is how I'm going to show up for you. And I want to show up for you in the best way possible. So reverse engineer that. I want to be good to myself. I want to be kind to myself. And anyway, one thing led to another, and everyone got laid off at the end when 9/11 happened, of course, certainly in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. And my friend and I at that time started a surfing and outdoor education company, outdoor adventure company in San Francisco. So I was basically in the water for 5 years, about 250 days a year, maybe longer. And I had a really killer tan from the neck up and the wrist down because I had on a thick wetsuit. But again, what that gave me every single day was cheering people on, was coaching people, was you can do it, whatever it is. If you kneel on the board or you stand up on the board, whatever it is, you're a winner in my eyes. You did it. You pushed yourself into something that's difficult. We sold the company. I went back into this world of advertising, and I was an account director, again, working with people. And one day I got a call from JWT, J. Walter Thompson in London. And the CEO said, I hear we need someone with your skill sets. And, you know, little Claude, without any confidence, would have said, what skill sets are those? But big Claude at that point said, okay, when do you need me? And it was 2 weeks. So I put everything into storage. And on, you know, I was 39 on the eve of turning 40. I started again in a strange land. Of course, we speak the same language, but England is very different, and they were very behind digitally. So I had something to share. And in 2000, I think it was 2013, my best friend who was running media at Unilever met Gary, and she literally wrote me an email and she said, I don't know what it is about this guy. You're two sides of the same coin. Gary Vaynerchuk, my boss, but you have to meet him. And so we had a very quick 3-minute conversation. I was pacing the floor in my London flat. I knew who Gary was, of course. And I came to New York and we hit it off. It was just like meeting my brother, meeting a friend, meeting a pal, meeting someone that kind of sees the world in the same way I do it, as an optimist. And next thing I knew, I started my career at Vayner May 8th of 2014. And I started as an account strategist because that's what I had done. Slowly but surely, he and his brother asked me to go visit other offices. And when I said to Gary, cool, love it, go back to San Francisco, I'll fly to London, whatever, great. But my client is in New Jersey. And he said, yeah, just go do that thing that you do. And it's the first time I was aware that I had a boss that saw something more than just the role, the title. He saw the magic that really makes me light up every single day. And so one thing led to another. And I said to him on my year, a Vaynerversary, we call them, thank you so much. I love it here. You know, you're the best, but I don't want to do advertising anymore. I just did not want to get a product into your hands. There's so many people that are better at it. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I only care about the people here. I care about the heartbeat. Boom. And about 9 months later, we created this role, Chief Heart Officer. So my only job description continues to be touch every single employee, or human, as we call them, and infuse our agencies with empathy. And so we were 400 people at that time, and now we're 2,000 across the globe. And it's every day is different. And I get to figure out how to do that, how to infuse empathy, how to scale that, how to bring that to people's awareness, how to help people work through their limiting beliefs so that they can show up as they want to show up, as the powerful person they are, rather than as the small person. So I'm going to pause there. That was a lot of my 55 years, almost 55 years. So there you go.
Well, Claude, that is so inspiring. And I didn't realize that we had so many other things in common. So it makes a lot of sense why Tyler suggested you from the Speakers Bureau, because there's so much there, from grandmother to not the best in college and still made it all the way through. So one of the things that I was thinking about, and I think it's important for some of the young rising stars to think through, especially since what we plan on doing with some of this content is having snacks, because I think that we should be celebrating women all year, not just in March. And one of the things that you've probably seen uniquely in the last 10 years in your role is the changing tide of the type of workers that we have. About 10 years ago, I think Deloitte put out a study that it was, we had 5 generations in the workplace, and how that different type of friction, but also kind of competitive landscape and learning from each other came to create this really, really eclectic workforce in the digital space. So being at the cutting edge, working for a boss that has, I don't even know how many sleeps a night, with all the content that he puts out, and having to be at the forefront of digital trends, technology, and then understanding the vast landscape of clients that you guys serve, that requires a workforce of 400 to 2,000. That's probably a little bit different. So tell us a little bit about, for these folks thinking of a different career or rising, what kind of skill sets have you seen change in the workforce of today, and how is that multiple, generational divide happening at VaynerX today?
Yeah, I love it. So yes, we still have 5 generations. I'm Gen X. We have boomers, And then we have, the young Generation Z. So we are an eclectic mix. I call it like a minestrone soup, in that if one of them wasn't here, the soup would not taste right. The oregano would be off, too much tomato, something like that. So we need all of these people. And what I have noticed, and I noticed it a while ago, is that our Gen X, myself, but also our boomers, have really settled into a wonderful role of mentor. Mentoring the big picture. What should I do with my life? What should I do? Should I take this job? Should I not take this job? That kind of stuff. And the youngsters have become mentors to those people, which is really, they're the social generation, right? They are digital first, social first. Someone said to me yesterday, they were asking me about my eyes, right? And I wear contacts, and then I wear these reading glasses on top. And she said to me, do you think your eyes got weak because you looked at the screen when you were a kid? And I said, oh, yeah, we didn't have screens when I was a kid, but we had TV screens, and my parents made me go 6 feet back. But no, I didn't look at a laptop or a desktop until I was probably 18, 19, 20. But that's amazing, right? That's what she asked me, because that's where she comes from. So, the skill sets, I'll say the first thing I did when I took over, when I stepped into this role, which of course no one had, was two things immediately. I changed the name of the department from HR, Human Resources, because I don't know what that is. I still don't know what that is. And it would be so out of integrity to say, like, I'm all of a sudden like blowing up this great, standing up this great department, and I've never done it. Like, I wanted to be a psychotherapist for a long time and studied deep psychology, but HR, no, thank you. So change the name to People and Experience, because common sense, that's what we're doing. And I immediately removed the need for a college education, because I think that's a showstopper. I think it's a showstopper with the different populations we want to bring in, the different cultures we want to bring in. Of course, if you're a lawyer, yes, of course, you're going to have a law degree. But I didn't want that to inhibit us, because you've got those kids that are programming Tetris or doing something on YouTube or now making the next TikTok, right? That's the genius we need today. That's the creative genius we need today. The people that are yes and. So talking about the skills needed, an entrepreneurial spirit. And that doesn't mean you want to start your own business. That means you see possibility. That means you see potential. That means you see a world where it's yes and, otherwise known as the growth mindset, rather than a no, I can't do that. No, we can never do that for the client. No, I don't have those skills. Yes, yes, yes. The other thing is, quite frankly, the self-awareness. And that is a big one. We're learning for the rest of our life. We will learn for the rest of our life. But there's no better time to start now as a 20-year-old, 25-year-old, a 45-year-old, because that's only going to give you that extra, spinach that Popeye eats. It's only going to, enforce who you are and the magic that you have. And that is a journey. And sometimes we need help to do that journey, or we go to a synagogue or a church or whatever. But that's a really great skill to have. It really is self-awareness, and it will keep you warm at night. And it's a much better skill than to listen to this negative limiting belief in here that I certainly listened to for a very long time, until I was about 35. I just said to myself over and over, I'm dumb, I'm dumb, I'm dumb. And that limited my opportunity. So I definitely say, please, 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 let's catch those limiting beliefs and imposter syndromes right now. I think the other skills obviously are the wherewithal to want to pick up a phone and fiddle around on it, because that's where, social is at the center. Like, it doesn't matter if you're reading an editorial on glamour.com, social is there. Every single place you look, you can click to Pinterest, you can click here. So understanding that this is I'm pointing to my phone, understanding that this is the medium now, right? And then a skill that I think is incredibly needed and lost, quite frankly, two skills: communication skills and writing skills. And those are things that, I learned when I didn't have a screen in front of me, but how to communicate, and not only how to communicate in a authentic and transparent way for you, which takes a lot of time. There's a lot of fear there, but also, how are people receiving you? When you walk into that room or you walk into that interview, again, I'm going to bring this up the entire time. Who are you bringing? Are you bringing small you? Are you bringing phony you? Because phony you is never going to actually make that job. Small you, just bring you. And it's okay to say, like, I'm nervous. It's okay to say these things. Writing skills, obviously, more than just a text or a IRL or a L, like L laughing. I'm dyslexic. I can't do it.
All of those. I don't know the LOLs either. I still do a ha if needed.
Right. So, very, I would say these are all very basic life skills. Basic life skills. The hard skills are commoditized. You will learn them over and over and over, but it's the relationships that make a difference. It's the people. And I don't even call that networking, because the word networking used to scare the heck out of me. I just call it building relationships.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's so important. And not only that, but, one of the things that I've admired along the way too, is that the culture at Vayner, you're number two. It's not the CFO. It's not the operating officer. It's you, because the people are not only the largest line item on a balance sheet. So, the most expensive part is salary. But number two, so you got to be good at making sure that you have the right people. But number two, the culture is ultimately what guides the innovation. And I think that's kind of what you were speaking to too, is you have to have a sense of curiosity and be innovative in how you're approaching things. So one of the questions that was asked in advance that I thought was really interesting is the idea of resumes, right? So I still did stationery and did like a pretty little cutout on the side of every single, thing that I sent along, handwritten, signature on the bottom when I was sending, job interview requests. That's what they were back then. It was job interview requests, was the resume. And then the cover letter was the only thing that I printed out, and it would take, that ink cartridge, like 2 or 3 different rounds to, and the thing comes out, right? And then I with the, over the years with the career, we've gotten to the point where LinkedIn has sort of become, a non-static resume that you continuously update how things are. I've seen some people lately. I had a job rec open and I had a few come in that were via video, that sent me inbounds. I was like, okay, that's creative for a business development position. So tell us a little bit about some of the creative, routes, especially in an advertising agency, especially knowing that Gary Vee is at the top. I'm sure you've had some really, really creative outputs on the way that people have applied at VaynerX. Would love to hear some of those examples.
Yeah, love it. I mean, video is huge. TikToks are huge. And so, listen, we're all consuming bite-sized bite-sized pieces of information. So the person receiving your resume is probably the same, even though they might be older or they might have different lived experience. So, what can you get into a 1 minute to 2 minute to 3 minute video that's going to share enough about you and why you are right for this role that would not translate the same way on paper, because paper it's analog, right? It doesn't change, as we know. It's just like, managed a portfolio of 2.5 million. Cool. Great. Tell me more. How did you do that? Right. So for a lot of our roles, we have a lot of creative roles that we hire for. We have one called the creators. They actually have to do a TikTok based on an imaginary brand and bring that brand to life. That's what they do, which is pretty cool. If you are a PCS, which is a post-creative strategist, wonderful, wonderful role, entry role, that post-creative strategist is given an assignment and needs to cull through all of the comments of said brand and find the niche cohorts. Niche. So basically, if someone is talking about Cheetos in a way that you and I have never heard them talking about Cheetos, bam. If they're talking about it, you'll find out who else is talking about it, and then you can market to them. Then you can, then you'll do some targeted TikToks to them or Instagram. So it's really widening the lens, the aperture of how you look, because anything is possible. We have no idea what's going to stick tomorrow. We had no idea that, what was his name? Mad Dog, I think, riding on the skateboard with Ocean Spray Cranberry was going to be such a hit. And it was. Like, okay, that's amazing. And that turned the tide right then and there of another way to market yourself. You don't have to have the suit and tie on. come as you are, really, nirvana, there you go. But like, come as you are. So video is huge. In fact, a lot of times even I'll get someone on LinkedIn will send me a voice note, and then they'll say, if it's okay with you, I'll send you a video. So I think so many things are visual right now, rather than the cover letter, which of course doesn't really get read or gets passed along and whatnot. So that I would say those are the really innovative ways. And then the best way is just to chat. The best way is just having a coffee talk. The best way is someone referring you, a friend of a friend referring you, and you say, come on in because you want to do right by your friend over there. So, and again, that's relationship building. So how would I think that the key is here is me as the interviewer, how do I hold space for you? That's the biggest thing right now. Like, that's our job as leaders, is to figure out how can I create and hold space for you so that you can show up as you are, maybe nervous, maybe giddy, maybe whatever, but we can get to someplace. We can get someplace in a conversation to whether or not you're right for this job, or you basically, let me send you someplace else, or, hey, maybe Netflix is the right company for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's a couple of questions trickling in. I'm gonna ask here because I think that's fantastic. I wanted to ask one real quick before we segue into this, because you mentioning that there was a day where you just turned and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I need a new position. That's a really brave thing to do. Maybe, the relationship that you had built, you knew that the person that you were speaking to was receptive to that idea. But what did it take internally for you to prepare yourself and know that that was the right thing to say? Or was it just instant because you knew yourself so well?
Oh, please. I knew myself well, but please. I knew I was tired of advertising 4 years before I even met Gary, but I had a great career. I lived in London. I worked on P&G. I worked, traveled all over the globe. And I had a great career, and I was good with clients because I break everything down as though I'm talking to my mom or a kindergartner, because sometimes you have to do that. When it dawned on me that my soul was basically dying in this role, not because of Vayner, not because of Gary, I just didn't want to talk about shampoo anymore. I got a coach. I found a coach, and I worked with a coach for about 6 months, 5 to 6 months, who really helped me do a couple of things, figure out what I wanted to do, where I was, my passion. So I would have gone into coaching, which is what I do anyway. And then I had to figure out how to give this information to Gary. And that was a big, big deal because I appreciate and admire him and respect him. And it wasn't him I was resigning from. It was the role that you can get at any advertising agency. So I worked very, very hard, and I role played a lot with this coach. And then one day I went in and I said, I actually resigned, and we had like a 90-minute conversation. And 3 months later, he called me. We had breakfast. And he said, "That's it. You're coming back. You're going to be chief heart officer." And I was like, "Cool. I know what that is in my heart. How do we know if I'm successful?" And that's when he told me the job description. So I guess to be really honest, like, yes, I knew myself, but there was no way I could get out of the fear of disappointing someone. What happens if he's a really incredible salesman and he lures me back in, and then, oh my God, I'm caught. So actually that day when I said, "Thank you so much, I'm ready to move on," he said, "Great, I need you to do the job for 18 more months. And I said, "I'll give you 6, which he doesn't remember, but I gave him 6 months. I found my backfill, which is, a mature thing to do. She now runs our LA office. And then I knew my job was done. I put a bow on it and I could move on. And then I had the resignation conversation.
That's fantastic. And I think that's so important to let everybody know that, these rises, to different roles of leadership often come with a lot of help, that it isn't just self-made. There's either therapy or coaching or mentorship that's always behind the scene of these great stories. So I think that's so important to just say out loud. So thank you for that. And one of the questions that came in here too is, with this lack of degree concept, if a recruiter is adamant about that, what tactical advice would you give to overcome that, or to think of it in a different way, or approach it in a different way? If it's a job requirement, degree, now a lot of people are doing that, or equivalent experience. They are saying that caveat. But if it's not the case and the recruiter is adamant about that, what would you advise to overcome that?
I mean, the thing I would probably advise, and I know that I'm saying this from the seat I sit in, is you might want to re-examine that line item, because you are going to miss out on some great talent. And if I had enough cojones in the interview, I would probably say something like that. My lived experience is far greater and far stronger and richer than my college education, or my lack of college education. That's probably what I would say. And I'd love to tell you more about that. Or, for me, I would, even though I did finally graduate, like, my experience in Outward Bound for 93 days was life-changing. Let me tell you about that and how those lessons are still with me today. So I don't think there's any, you're not going to be able to say, like, well, remove it from your job description.
Requirements. Right.
Yeah, but lived experience is so important. Lived experience, and especially if you are trying to attract a diverse floor, which I hope everyone is, you've got to be willing to look in places that you don't look normally. You have to be willing to take a chance on people. Now, I know that you take a chance on people that, we spent 3 months looking for you. That person doesn't work out. Then I have to spend more money to backfill. I understand all of that. But I also think when you have a hunch that this person's probably really great, the person's probably really great.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's what I would say. It's a great question. I don't have the magic answer, but it's a great question.
I think it's important to just acknowledge that it's worthy of being challenged, right?
Yeah.
And that, even if it's a requirement, there are ways to even think it through and not just take, status quo. So something that you just mentioned that just got our attention as well, and I was thinking here, is when you did go for that role, and you said, all right, and how am I going to be successful? It sounds like you have a very acute sense of understanding KPIs and then the value and or outcomes that you're supposed to bring in a role to deem it successful. So tell us a little bit about how you've done that throughout the course of your career and right-sized yourself to make sure that you were doing the best output that you could, but maybe also coming to the conclusion that maybe these roles weren't for you. It sounds like you have a keen sense of that understanding.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, because I think as a dyslexic and someone that had to learn things a different way, for a lot of us, dyslexic or not, we use our intuition. We rely on data and pattern recognition. So I had been, and remember, I knew nothing about marketing, advertising, or comms, nothing at all. I had no idea what it took to get a TV spot made, or what it took to put anything on Facebook. Nothing. I knew nothing. So I think, what I noticed from being in meetings was that this word KPI, how do we know if you're successful? How do we know? I noticed that was being mentioned, just like ROI, right? And it might have took me a little bit of time to understand, key performance indicators. Gross, what a gross phrase. But I understood what the output was, which is I need to show you that I'm bringing you value. I need to show you that I'm right for this role. I need to show you that I'm a great mentor. I need to show you that I'm great with whatever the role was. So I was good at that. Remember, I also had a surfing company and an outdoor adventure company. So reading people has been a joy for me, and something that I'm very privileged that I am able to do with kindness. And hopefully lack of judgment. So understanding the cues that are being given to me, especially nonverbal cues, are so important. Something I have to think about when I'm with a person too. So I would say, even when I was an account director, it was literally sitting down with a mentor at the job. What do I need to do to get this over the end, in the end zone? What is it? And I had to learn what campaigns were. I had to learn what evergreen content was, all of that stuff. So the reason I could say to Gary, how do we know if I'm successful, is, well, that's what he wanted. That's what he wants. He wants success out of this role. He's entrusting me with his agency and creating and cultivating this culture of belonging and bravery, as I say, as I call it. And so I needed to know what he was looking for. And every year, and I really mean this, every year, usually December to February, when I get my one-on-one with him, I ask him, is my job description the same? Touch every single human and infuse the agency with empathy. And 8 years in, it is. It's the same. There's tweaks to it. Yes, spend more time here, spend less time here, but it's the same. And right now, one of my biggest KPIs is he wants me to meet and know all 2,000 people in 2024. So, okay, I've had to create some systems, and smart people create systems for me to do that, because I'm not that type of person that's going to be listening to Paula and taking notes while you're speaking and then being like, wait, I can't have that next meeting. I got to write my notes on Paula. I'm not like that. I retain what I'm going to retain, and then, hope for the best. So anyway, I think the moral of the story is, with anything, to know what you are being graded on, looked at, judged on, how someone is going to feel when you bring them X. Is that what they wanted, or did you bring them? Here's a really great story. We moved into this house. We bought a house a little while ago, and we had all of these boxes. And I thought, wow, rather than spending time unboxing some of the boxes, it'd be great if I just went to the store, Walmart or whatever, and I bought, toilet paper rollers and all of that stuff you need in the bathroom. Right? I thought that was really helpful. My partner was like, that wasn't helpful. That wasn't helpful at all. Like that, you didn't get the drift. What's helpful is to get rid of these boxes so we can walk around the house. And, it's like one of those mismatches. So paying attention or asking those questions is really important. And I actually think people that you ask those questions to value that. You're inquisitive. You want to know. You're curious. Like, let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. For me to make the impact you want me to meet 2,000 people. Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. No, and that makes a lot of sense. And, it sounds like intrinsically, by the definition of creating a culture of belongingness and bravery, it means that you're combating imposter syndrome with and for your employees. So tell us a little bit about how that phrase that has turned into kind of a buzzword, but I think we've all felt it in our bellies at some point, and how it is that you guys help folks overcome that, because it's a really paralyzing, crippling place to be at different stages of your career.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite things to do with someone in my little room or wherever we are. I'll share what I believe is a great exercise to go through to combat it. You have to be really honest with yourself. So this brain of ours is speaking negative thoughts to us pretty much like all day long, and they're on repeat. I'm dumb, I'm dumb, I'm dumb. I'm never going to get that done, whatever it is. I can't juggle stuff. I can't prioritize. That person's better than me. Repeat, 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 repeat. What I say to someone is, please tell me what that voice is saying right now. Work at it. Give me that sentence. I am dumb. Let's just take the one I used for a long time. Okay, I am dumb. Now, let's find evidence that you're dumb, because this brain is telling you that you are. So let's find evidence, and maybe it's right. Okay, am I dumb? Let's see. No, let's see. I've been working for Gary for 10 years. That's probably pretty good. Okay, great. I know how to balance my check. I'm playing with you. Like, I know how to get from point A to Z. Like, okay, I cannot find any evidence that I'm dumb. Cool. So if I'm not dumb, then let's create a mission statement or a sentence that is real for me. That is really real. Okay. I'm the CEO of my life, and I know how to make decisions. Does that light me up? That feels pretty good. I am a badass at what I do, and my vision is to help every single person get the best out of themselves. Whatever. Yeah, but whatever it is, it has to light that person up. It can't be just like, wah, wah, wah. They have to be like, that's it. So then, okay, Paula, let's find evidence that you are the CEO of your life and you know how to get shit done. Okay, start to talk to me. How do you know this? Oh, you started this whole thing, a week of wonder. Okay, da 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 da. Oh, you have that job. Oh, great. Oh, cool. So Paula, I'm just looking at what you told me. There's no evidence that you're dumb. There's a lot of evidence that you know how to get stuff done for yourself. Great. Okay. What I want you to do is try to be mindful of when that voice comes up. Here you go. Write this down. I know how to get things done, whatever. Put it on your laptop, put it in your wallet, put it in your bathroom mirror, and try to really pay attention. When that voice comes up, eject that tape and put in this other one. Because this is the truth. I know how to get stuff done. I know how to move mountains. I know how to, take care of my career and my family, whatever it is. Again, it has to be right for you, not for Claude. And that's what it is. That's how I do it.
That's such fantastic tactical advice. And it goes back to some of the early career coaching, which was, affirmations, writing it down, visualizing it, right? And I think all of those elements and tactics are still very true. I think society has gotten to a point, because it's so social and because it's so public and digital, that you feel like the imposter syndrome a little bit more acutely because it's so public, it's so in your face. So I think that's probably what has, contributed to that being a rising topic, as people become a little bit more public. So another question that I wanted to ask you, especially with, through the pandemic, you lived through that, it was probably really hard for Gary to have asked you for that KPI of meeting everybody then. What kind of tactics, what kind of examples can you give to building relationships within a community, if you don't necessarily work in the office with people, or if you're working from home, or if you have global teams, that have to still kind of impart knowledge on each other and or collaborate? What would you give as advice for that, other than just, the Zoom meetings, hello? What do you do to tactically build relationships abroad?
Wherever you are, if you're using a screen to still communicate, or you're hybrid or whatever, I think at this point in the, we're out of the pandemic and we're still hybrid, whatever, creating rituals is very important. So rituals doesn't have to be like what you think it might be at a church. Rituals are every Monday morning, we get together for a stand-up and everyone goes around the room, you popcorn it off to one another and you say the best thing that happened to you this weekend. Or you say what I binge watched this weekend, or you say whatever the ritual is that is enjoyable and brings people together, and you can count on it. Because the thing that is, I think, one of the most foreign things for us to do is get on the screen, 50 people, 13 people, whatever, and be like, let's get to work. Okay. Right. And it's like, there's no creativity and you're just sitting there. You're just sitting there being like, all right, I'm not really sparked here. I'm not sparked. So how do we create that magic? Leaning in, definitely, like the nonverbal cues, like you're looking at me, I see that, leaning forward in a conversation. Tell me more about that. The other thing that I said when the pandemic started, and I still think this, and I think Zoom and all of the other platforms have caught up on this, we are looking in on someone's house, their private area. And some people don't feel comfortable with that. Right. So put a filter on and talk about that for a bit, which is always a great, oh my God, I never saw that filter. Oh, you turned into a lion. How did you do that? Whatever. So, listen, the things I'm going to talk about are always going to be around optimism and positivity, because that's what I believe we need more of. And I think, and certainly in the day that we're in with the global financial crisis and all of that stuff. The other thing is like being real and communicating, over communicating if you need to on this platform, on this screen, because you can't see me other than my neck up. You actually have no idea if I'm like tapping my foot underneath if I'm nervous or whatever. So like over communicate, make sure you're communicating to the introvert in the corner there that never says anything on screen or off screen. These are things that I think are really, really important. Remember who are you as you show up on the screen? And is there anything you can do to alleviate some of the pressure or some of the difficulty of communicating on the screen? And I say that as All of us are leaders. All of us need to do that. Don't wait for someone to do that for you. Please, take the ball and run with it. And it's a wonderful time to do that because there are no rules. This is still the wild, wild west as it was in 1998. There is no best practice right now. There still is no best practice. So, roll the dice and see what works for you. A ritual, a scavenger hunt, a courageous conversation because you all are burnt out. Let's just talk about it. The sky's the limit. Just, do it and be authentic and be mindful that emotions are high right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's such great advice. And, one of the other things here in the chat, I will just read out that it is often difficult to be accepted when attached to kindness and being an emotional optimist. So what challenges have you faced in bearing yourself as that person, and how did you overcome those?
So two things come to mind immediately. My title is amazing. It's the best in rock and roll. And if one doesn't know me or understand the scope of what I do every single day, you think, oh, that's really sweet. Oh, that's sticky and sweet and cute. Oh, we should all have a sticky, sweet Care Bear heart officer. And so I have been told on many a time, you go just do that heart thing you do. And it's like, wow, okay, sure. You want to trade spots for like a day, an hour? So that's the one that is like, it's painful. It's like, you don't need to say that. About 6 years ago, I was doing a keynote in London. And again, London's my home. I love it. It's a great place. However, it's a very different culture. And so when I talk about leading with love, that didn't go over well in this population that I was speaking to. We don't use love in the workplace. Okay, well, let's break that down. By no means are we talking about romantic love here. We're talking about kindness and compassion. We're talking about, using your heart, being a human to another human. That is kindness and compassion, which we learn at age 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever. So you don't have to use the word love, but what I'd like you to do is act on kindness and compassion. Can you do that? So those are the two things that stick out immediately for me. I do think the other thing is I'm not HR. When I took the role, I said, Gary, I don't want to do HR. I've never wanted it. He's like, you're going to hire a great team around you. And it took me many years, but I have a solid team that has the science, the science of HR, people and experience, to be my yin or my yang, right? I'm always going to go into these conversations. I'm going to do my best to go in with as much empathy and kindness as I possibly can and be honest. But you will not get from me a policy thrown in your face. And I hope you don't get it from anyone else at work. You will not get a no, you can't do that. What I'd like you to get, and I work with the team a lot on this, is let's be creative about this. Like, that's not going to work in the state of New York, right? But let's see what we can do because we're VaynerMedia and we don't report to anyone except for Gary. So it's I think to answer that question, it's feeling very comfortable in my skin and knowing this is my life's work and knowing that I am doing the best I can on any given day. And if I feel like I have a meeting in which I'm not my best, I will ask for additional time with that person. And I know what I'm doing is needed. It's needed everywhere. Everyone, I think of anyone that touches people as a chief heart officer. So I feel very good about it. And I do my best to not get my feelings hurt because when they say, go do that heart thing, it's not about Claude. It's nothing to do with me. It has to do with them.
Yeah, no, I can completely relate to that one. And sometimes people don't understand what's behind the scenes of what seems to come so naturally, right? One of the other things that I was thinking about as you were sharing that you were dyslexic, but also had some challenges in school and things like that. And I know myself, I struggle with certain things when it comes time to reporting or things like that. It takes me an extraordinary amount of time. I'm a perfectionist, and my PowerPoints take forever because I want to get it just right to make the story come off perfectly so that I can present internally. And what I've done over the last 5 years as I've matured in my career and in my life is put people around me who are, the other arrows in my quiver. And
Yeah.
it's not just the Paula show, it's my team. You know, as you mentioned this in your example this week of Wonder, there's no way this would have happened if it was left to just me, right? It's the collective effort of the team putting my vision to life. And that's how I've succeeded so much, is the people that are around me. So tell me a little bit about how you handpicked the Chief Heart Officer dream team that supports you every day. How did you go about selecting them, and how do you choose and pick the type of folks that you need to help you support your vision?
Yeah, wonderful question. A lot of times, if I'm looking for someone that has benefit experience or experience that I don't have, understands unemployment, understands all these things, I have to make sure they bring that. However, they must be able to identify with emotional intelligence. They must be able to be empathetic. And again, empathy is a feeling. The output is kindness and compassion. And there's a lot of kindness and compassion that's needed right now in this crazy working world where emotions are high and, sometimes you just want to hide under a pillow. So I found people that were literally the opposite of me, but still had a heart to help. Literally more analytical than me, more strict than I am, more on the defense, much more on the defense, but I want it to come out. I want to work with them to come out in a certain way. We've got me, we've got Gary, we've got a lot of positivity. But I do need people that can also bring the smarts, the data to any given scenario or situation. And so I spent a lot of time looking for Jen Ruza, who's now our EVP of People and Experience, and she's the Batman to my Robin. I couldn't do this job without her. I need her. And we have spent a lot of time in turn training the people, the HR business partners, to be either, because they're all bleeding hearts, to understand how and when to take a time out, energy management, do a lot of energy work, and quite frankly, to compartmentalize. And as much as I remember in therapy years and years and years and years ago, a therapist was like, you compartmentalize too much. Well, now it's really useful for me. So I'm not compartmentalizing Claude. I just can't take home Jack and Jill and Sam and Sarah. I just can't. So I work with them on, again, how to hold space in an energetic way. And once that meeting is over, how to disperse that energy. I believe in that. I have to believe in that. But yes, I look for people that have what I don't have, and I need them.
Yep. No, couldn't agree more. And you mentioned that you had two little ones at home, and definitely if you're a heart at work the way that you are, I can only imagine what you transfuse to your family. So how do you balance, having such a public position? Not only are you the Chief Heart Officer, you're also a keynote speaker. You also have a very public-facing role as being part of, Gary's right-hand team. How do you balance that and make sure that those little ones get the attention, and how do you show up for them?
Yeah. So I was a workaholic and a proud workaholic for a very, very, very long time. And when our first daughter was born, literally my life changed. And I just knew that my priority was going to be her. And so I have been I empowered myself I don't start before 9:00 and I'm done at 5:30, and that's it. And if you need me afterwards, sure, maybe I can get on at 7:45. I'll look at email totally, but that's it. It's
That's fantastic.
9 to 5:30. If I have to do 8:30, great. But yeah, I mean, who else is going to give me that permission? And I want people to be able to be brave enough and proud of themselves enough to know what they need so that they can keep their equilibrium. And when I'm with my kids, it's the most creative time I've ever had, playing Barbies and sisters and this and restaurants and all the stuff I never, I didn't do. And I'm an older mom too. So it's kind of really, it's just really, really fun. So that's what I do. I have to have enough time during the day or the week to decompress and just to listen to music, podcasts, talk to my friends. Those are things that I'm not going to give up.
And so it sounds like if I translate what you said there, you've learned how to set very clear boundaries on how your life needs to work so that the best Claude can show up every day. You need to
Yeah.
fill that cup.
I do. Well, someone once told me, hey, Claude, don't water dead plants. It took me a little while to understand that. And what that meant to me is don't give where there's no fruit. Don't give where there's no abundance there in relationship or in whatever I'm doing. And that in itself set boundaries for me. So I really try to focus on like, what is the 1% of something I need to do in this meeting now, in this day, in this week? What do I really need to, I need to cross the finish line with this, not only for the team, for the company, for Gary, for Claude.
That's so powerful. Thank you so much. Well, we have reached the top of the hour. Claude's LinkedIn is in the chat for those of you who want to connect with her so that you can ask her questions, interact with her online. Claude, I can't thank you enough. And in full transparency, you've had me on the verge of tears this entire session. So thank you so much for your authentic words.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
All right. Thanks, guys.